hearing that we have scheduled for this 2015 year as this Assembly Human Services. I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank my committee members as well as the staff for your comment and your assistance to making this a great committee to chair. And since we don't have a quorum here, I'd like to begin as a subcommittee. And as we're waiting for more members to arrive so we can establish a quorum. We have 11 items on the agenda today, 4 of which are on the consent calendar, which are item number 3, SB 68 by Senator Liu, and item number 4, SB 238, Senator Mitchell, and number 6, SB 478, Senator Huff, and item 11, SB 794, Senate Human Services Committee. So we will, when we get a quorum, we'll be voting on the consent calendars. For each of the items not on the consent, we will allow 3 witnesses in support and 3 in opposition. And all the others can add on to specify your name and your association. With that, we have Senator Monins here. I saw Senator Monins somewhere. All right, Senator Monins, would you like to start?
Item number 1.
There will be item number 5. Item number 5, SB 523. 523, right? 253. This is 253.
Oh.
No problem. Great, Senator Monin, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon. I'm here to present SB 253, which strengthens the juvenile court's process for authorizing psychotropic medication use for foster children. This bill mandates the application of healthcare standards by the judiciary when authorizing psychotropic drugs to children in foster care. No psychotropic drugs would be authorized without prior medical exams of the children, and an ongoing monitoring must occur. For treatments with the greatest risk, a second opinion from a psychiatrist must be obtained. The data is very troubling. Nearly 1 in 4 foster youth receive powerful psychotropic drugs. Of all the children taking psychotropic drug medications in California, 52% are given antipsychotics, which have risk factors that can lead to lifelong disabilities such as tremors, obesity, and diabetes. 48% of foster youth are given antidepressants that have an FDA black box label warning for use by children. We, the state of California, assume the role of the parent for foster youth. It is the job of the legislature to address this problem for a voice that doesn't often get heard. Members, I respectfully ask for an aye vote, and I have several people here to testify in support of the bill with the permission of the chair. Thank you. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is D'Angelo Cortillo. I'm 22 years old, a student at Chabot College in Hayward, and an intern at the National Center for Youth Law. Today, I'd like to share my story, a story that is an unfortunate reality for thousands of youth today. I entered my first foster home when I was about 10 years old. Prior to me entering this home, I experienced severe abuse and neglect. I entered long-term foster care after a member of my father's family sexually abused me. After this abuse, I bounced from home to home due to unstable behavior. I amassed more than a dozen placements within a 2-year period and eventually crossed over to the juvenile justice system. As a result of the lack of information sharing between my care providers, often I was diagnosed multiple times, each with a different diagnosis for the same type of behavior. This came along with several medications that caused adverse side effects. It is imperative for the safety of children in foster care and group homes that all of these professionals have access to the same up-to-date information on the children in their care. And judges in reviewing cases in order to prevent over-medicating our youth should hold clear and convincing evidentiary standards. In this process, it can only help to have a second opinion and review from other healthcare providers and judicial staff to ensure that it is absolutely necessary and safe to give that particular child a powerful and dangerous drug or drugs. It was damaging to me, and I know how it feels to be dependent on drugs. I remember being afraid of taking medications, but the powerful presence and opinion of doctors made me feel like I had no choice but to take what was prescribed to me. What worked for me was equine-assisted therapy. Working with horses did more for me than all of the drugs prescribed ever did. I was able to develop a relationship and become aware of myself and my horse. This relationship brought me peace. It is also important to give us a voice in this process. Senate Bill 253 will allow for people like me and countless others a chance to come out of the system unharmed by the unnecessary overuse of this harmful and powerful drugs. Thank you for your time, and on behalf of children in the system, I ask for you to support us with passing Senate Bill 253. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And before we hear the next speaker, looks like we'll have a quorum, so I'll ask the Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Chair. Chu.
Here.
Mays.
Not present.
Calderon. Here. Lopez. Here. Mainshine. Stone. Thurmond. We have a quorum.
We do have a quorum. All right. Thank you very much. You may, please.
Thank you, Chairman Chu. My name is Bill Grimm. I'm a senior attorney at the National Center for Youth Law, the same office that D'Angelo is from. I'm also a member of the state's expert panel on psychotropic medications put together by the California Department of Social Services and its Department of Healthcare Services. As D'Angelo and Senator Monning have already pointed out, SB 253 addresses a crisis, and have no doubt about it. It is a crisis facing our children in foster care, with too many foster children receiving too many psychotropic drugs for too long at dosages that are oftentimes too high and with much too little oversight. The need for action actually is more urgent now than ever before. Just in March of this year, the Inspector General of the Federal Department of Health and Human Services did a study, including cases from California, in which it found, among other things, children, in more than a third of cases, children had taken medication too long and were taking too many drugs at the same time. In over 40% of the cases, the medication was the wrong treatment, in the opinion of the consulting psychiatrist. In over 50% of the cases, the monitoring of children taking the drugs was outside medical guidelines. This has become more urgent just within the last 2 weeks. A publication in the Journal of the American Medical Association of a study funded by the National Institutes of Mental Health, and an accompanying editorial raises yet another alarm about psychotropic medications and our children. Doctors Carell and Blader warned, quote, youth are more susceptible to acute and long-term adverse effects of antipsychotic medications than are adults, and that prolonged exposure to antipsychotic medications may diminish brain volume in the adolescent developing brain. The version of SB 253 before you today is the result of months of collaboration and revision with the youth who are directly affected by the absence of adequate safeguards, with public and private agencies and providers, caregivers, the judiciary, and others, including dependency attorneys and CASAs. This bill follows the principles of care recently adopted in the practice parameters of the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry, and as noted by this committee's staff analysis, follows the core principles of the guidelines for the use of psychotropic medications posted by the California Department of Social Services and Healthcare Services. Its requirements, for example, related to the exhaustion of less invasive, lower-risk inventions, follows the recommendations of the Academy and the American Psychiatric Association. And it is consistent with the legal and civil rights of mentally ill persons in our own Lanterman-Petrus Short Act. SB 253 creates a more rigorous process commensurate with the seriousness of the decision that courts make to authorize administration of psychotropic medications. It ensures the court is provided with the nature and extent of information that adolescents and child psychiatrists use as their own standard of care for prescribing that the psychiatrists themselves regard as the riskiest and the least supported by the medical evidence. It calls for a second opinion. In sum, as Judge Nash testified, former juvenile court presiding judge in Los Angeles, testified several months ago, these are the things that a prudent, responsible parent would do for their own child. Foster children for whom the state is the guardian are entitled to the same level of protection. We urge your support of SB 253 and the provision of these adequate safeguards for kids in our foster care system.
Great. Thank you. Do we have additional witnesses in support? Please come forward and state your name and your affiliation. Thank you.
Mr. Chair and members, Mike Belote on behalf of the California Judges Association. Our juvenile court judges of California appreciate the work that Senator Monning and his staff and the committee have done. We support this wholeheartedly in concept. We're still working out some final details. The amendments are certainly moving the bill in the right direction, and we support working together with you as it moves forward.
Tisha Ortiz, former foster youth. I strongly support this bill.
Thank you.
My name is Rochelle Trottenberg. I'm a former foster youth, and I strongly support this bill.
Thank you.
My name is Shaniqua Arrington, former foster youth, and I strongly support this bill.
Thank you.
I'm Brandon Tartaglia with Disability Rights California in support.
Thank you.
LaToya Ramsey, National Association of Social Workers, California chapter, in support.
Thank you.
Nicole Wertelman on behalf of the Alameda County Board of Supervisors, in support.
Thank you.
Matt Gallagher on behalf of Mental Health America of Northern California, also in support.
Thank you.
Michelle Stoll-Pravensky, Children's Defense Fund, California, in support.
Thank you.
Jennifer Alexic, licensed psychotherapist in Sacramento County, working with foster youth and adjudicated youth. There's absolutely zero mandatory testing done to prove any of the illnesses that children are commonly diagnosed for. Children in foster care are traumatized. They are not mentally unstable. The cure is not pills. The cure is prevention.
Thank you.
Hi, Leslie Heimoff, Children's Law Center of California. Very happy to see the last round of amendments and in support now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hirsch from Legal Services for Prisoners with Children, also in support.
Thank you.
Janice Stillman with Legal Services for Prisoners with Children, in support.
Thank you.
Diana Boyer, County Welfare Directors Association, in support.
Thank you.
Jim Lindberg on behalf of the Friends Committee on Legislation of California, in support.
Thank you.
Precious Watson, former foster youth, strong support.
Thank you very much. Any opposition? Please come forward. And we do allow 3 witnesses, so please take a seat up front if you can find one.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. Christopher Castrillo on behalf of the California Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry. I have here with me today Dr. Robert Holloway, President of CaliCap. Just to provide you with some brief testimony regarding our outstanding concerns with the measure, just want to clarify that we're not here in opposition. We've been working very closely with both Senator Monning, National Center on Youth Law, Mr. Graham and Ms. Johnson for a number of weeks now to identify just some potentially problematic issues with implementing this bill as currently written. I want to thank them for regularly working with us, both during and after normal working hours. And I think we're getting really very, very close to a resolution. With that said, we have a couple of outstanding issues that we hope to work on over the recess and potentially have resolved by the time this bill gets to the Appropriations Committee. So with that, I have Dr. Holloway here, and he also is available to answer any technical questions that you might have.
Great.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, committee members. As Chris said, my name is Robert Holloway, and I am currently president of California Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry. I also happen to grow up in a foster home. My parents were foster parents. I was their biological child, but I had several foster brothers and sisters. We adopted my younger sister when she was 4 and I was 10. When I was 18 and moved away to go to college, she was 12, and she began her long history of suicide attempts and being hospitalized. Our family regards the adoption process as having been completely unsupported. No one ever mentioned psychotherapy. My parents were naive, and they thought that love and support would be enough. Unfortunately, it was not enough. My sister has suffered for decades and is just now finding her voice, finding her own stability. As president of CalACAP and someone whose family has been deeply touched by this, I have a lot of opinions about what we should do, what we could do to make this whole situation better. Someone said prevention, early intervention is the answer, and that is true. These kids should be getting psychotherapy the minute they are placed. The foster families should be getting supportive psychotherapy in order to keep them in their placement so they're not repeatedly traumatized by failing another placement. That said, we do have some concerns about the specific proposed bills. We have some concerns that there may be unintended consequences. For example, because children have so many placements and because so little information accompanies them to the physician, it's very difficult to have all the information necessary to actually form a helpful and appropriate solution. We are hoping that there will be legislation that improves this access to information so that doctors can make the best decisions possible and can communicate as well as possible to the parents. Now, in this instance, the parents aren't biological parents. They are a committee composed of social workers, judges, and house staff. Because it's a committee, it means that things sometimes get dropped and that appointments are missed, that responses to medications are not given back to the doctor, which makes it very difficult to continue providing good care. It's our concern that until this problem is fixed, we will never truly have state-of-the-art care for these children, which is what we want. Our concerns with 253 as it's currently written are what to do when we don't have all the information that we need. Currently, when a doctor faces a situation in which we don't have all the information we need, we have to decide what will be of the most benefit and the least harm to this child at that moment. And if we're concerned that the child faces incarceration or hospitalization, at that moment, we are much more likely to prescribe a medication. We're concerned that if the bill is not written as best as it can be, that we may see an increase in incarcerations and hospitalizations and potentially suicide attempts.
Great. Thank you very much. You have 30 seconds.
And we're also concerned that because of specific lab requirements and timelines on lab requirements, we may not be able to provide good continuity of care based on the scattered nature of the child's.
Great. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, I'm Randall Hager. I represent the California Psychiatric Association. I think Dr. Holloway really very well summed up the sentiments of my members. I would like to thank the Center for Youth Law for working with us these weeks. They have made some significant concessions, and we are moving forward, and we are hoping that we can continue to do that and to make sure that this bill gets operationalized in a way that ensures that there's access to medication when it's medically indicated. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, we have a motion and a second. Is any question from the members? Mr. Thurman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank the author and also thank the opposition. I appreciate the meeting from those opposed or concerned about the bill. I did think of something new just listening to your testimony about your concern about if you don't have all the information, And I got to be honest, it struck me a little bit because it was sort of like I don't want to ever let convenience override precaution. And so, but let me just ask the question, how long would it take to get all the information that you need? Meaning, why not wait, get the info? How long? But just so I'm really understanding the situation, how long would one have to wait if you needed to get the information to make that most informed decision?
That's actually a very good question.
I only ask the best questions.
Oh, well,
I'm kidding.
Yeah, the chair will not allow any dumb questions here.
It's all about the chair.
That is a question that we face pretty much every time we see a child. We have to determine how urgent is the situation, how likely will it escalate within the next week. And if it's a relatively stable case and we don't see signs of danger, we might be able to wait a month. But if it's not, it's very unlikely that we're going to have more information within a week or maybe even 2 weeks in a lot of these cases.
And the kind of information that you'd be seeking to help you make that determination? What is it?
Past diagnoses, what actually led to the past diagnoses, why a patient is actually on a medication. For example, let's say they're on Depakote. Are they on it because of a seizure disorder or for a mood disorder? Those are very different things.
Got it. Thank you. Through the chair, I'd like to also ask the author and their witnesses if they'd like to speak to that.
Thank you.
Well.
I appreciate the question and the opportunity to comment. Have great respect for the opposition. I think, as they've indicated, I think we're working well together. A couple of things to underscore. This bill does not prohibit the use of pharmaceuticals or psychotropics. It does step up the network of medical care, judicial oversight, and is a part of a suite of bills that is, I will acknowledge, it is designed to have everyone in the system involved with foster child care to step up. And nobody said it's going to be easy. We're willing to work with the contingencies of concern to address those. But our number one interest is the protection of foster youth, many of whom are being prescribed drugs that are contraindicated in terms of, because of lack of a good medical history, and resulting in serious, often lifelong medical adverse consequences. So again, first to acknowledge we're trying to thread the needle here, but we're also seeing everybody's going to have to step up their game for a population that is dependent on us.
Thank you very much. I failed to ask if any additional witnesses that in opposing this bill, please come forward. Seeing none, Senator, do you want to close?
I think I just did. Again, fully committed. Some of the concerns raised in the committee report, we've shown, I think, in the path of this legislation, absolute commitment to continue working on some of the concerns that have been voiced. And I think we're all pushing in the same direction of protecting foster youth. So with that, respectfully ask for an aye vote and thank your committee for its good analysis of our bill in its current state. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Senator. Yeah, this bill adopts a number of changes that will help reform the process of authorizing those drugs in a way that ensured more comprehensive approaches to the behavioral and the physical health of the youth, and therefore I will be supporting this bill. So we have a motion and a second. Would you please call the roll, please?
Yes. Senate Bill 253 by Senator Monning. The motion is due pass to appropriations. 2.
Aye.
2, aye. Mays?
Aye.
Mays, aye. Calderon?
Aye.
Calderon, aye. Lopez? Aye. Lopez, aye. Mainshine? Stone? Thurmond?
Aye.
Thurmond, aye. Bill is out.
Great.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. We'll leave it open for the members to add on. At this time, I'd like to go back to the consent calendar. We have 4 items on consent. Item 3, 4, 6, and 11. So we'll have a motion and a second. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Item number 3, SB 68, due pass to consent. Item number 4, SB 238, do pass to appropriations with recommendation consent. Item number 6, SB 478, Senator Huff, do pass as amended to appropriations with recommendation to consent. Item number 11, SB 794, Senate Human Services Committee, do pass to appropriations with recommendation consent. 2.
Aye.
2, aye. Mays?
Aye.
Mays, aye. Calderon? Calderon, aye. Lopez? Lopez, aye. Mainshine? Stone? Thurmond? Thurmond, aye. Consent calendar's out.